There's this incredibly universal and just deeply frustrating weekend experience.
Oh, yeah, we've all been there.
Right. Like anyone who cares about their vehicle has faced this.
Yeah.
You decide you are going to wash your car. You pull it into the driveway, get the buckets, the wash mitts, the specialized wheel brushes.
All the gear.
Exactly. And you spend 2 hours sweating in the sun, scrubbing, rinsing, and meticulously drying every panel. And when you finally step back to admire your handiwork, instead of a pristine vehicle, you are looking at a patchy, streaky, water-spotted mess.
It is a very specific type of defeat.
It really is. I mean, it somehow looks mediocre at best, despite all that intense physical labor.
Right, because you put in the effort, you bought the products, but the end result looks, well, nothing like what you envisioned when you drag the hose out.
And it gets so much worse when you're driving the next day and a professionally detailed vehicle rolls past you. I mean, it doesn't just look clean. It looks structurally flawless.
Like liquid glass.
Yes. It has this hyper-reflective, mirror-like finish. The clear coat looks almost like computer rendering rather than a physical object. The delta between the driveway wash you just attempted and that professional finish is, frankly, staggering.
Which often leaves people staring at their own garage shelves, wondering if the professionals just have access to some kind of restricted, inaccessible chemistry, or, if there's a fundamental flaw in how the rest of us are approaching the task.
And that tension is exactly the core of our deep dive today. We're pulling from a really revealing stack of recent sources straight from Autoglym.
Yeah, there is some great material here.
Specifically, we're looking at a March 2025 publication and their official, newly released course syllabuses detailing the completion of the completely revamped Autoglym Academy.
And these documents, they're far more than just a corporate announcement. When you read between the lines of the syllabuses, they actually provide a very transparent blueprint of how the high-end professional car care industry operates behind closed doors.
The mission for this deep dive is to uncover the exact science and the structural methodology behind that professional-grade car care.
The real mechanics of it.
Right. We're going to explore what it actually takes to achieve that perfect finish. Whether you're a business owner trying to train a fleet of employees to work efficiently, or just a weekend enthusiast trying to finally defeat the water spots on your driveway. Okay, let's unpack this. Where do we even begin?
Well, the most logical place to anchor our understanding is the physical foundation of this entire revamp. The Autoglym Academy is based at their head office in Letchworth, Hertfordshire. And the detail that dictates everything else they do, the thing that stands out immediately in their materials, is that the facility is completely indoors.
I mean, on one hand, as anyone who has ever tried to apply a coating in the unpredictable British weather knows, being indoors feels like a basic necessity.
Oh, absolutely.
Because trying to get a perfect finish while the wind is blowing micro debris onto the paint, or the sun is flash drying your chemicals before you can buff them, it's basically like trying to bake a delicate souffle in a wind tunnel. You're fighting the environment before you even start fighting the dirt on the car.
And chemically speaking, that environmental control is the prerequisite for everything they teach. If you can't control variables like ambient temperature, surface temperature, and humidity, you just cannot guarantee the chemical performance of the polymers or abrasives you're applying.
That makes total sense.
Yeah, so an indoor academy eliminates those volatile environmental variables so the students can isolate their focus entirely on the physical technique and the chemical reactions.
I hear that, but I have to push back on this a little bit, because giving someone a sterile, weatherproof room is incredibly nice. But the location itself doesn't really matter if you don't have the right teachers. Great.
That is a very fair critique. Like, I could have the most pristine, climate-controlled garage in the world, and I would still give you a streaky, hazy car. The facility doesn't automatically make someone a master detailer if the instruction is core.
No, it doesn't. And that is precisely where the source material shifts from discussing real estate to discussing human capital. The true value proposition of this revamped academy is not the physical building at all.
So is the people.
Exactly. It is the brain trust they have assembled to run it. What's fascinating here is the technical team executing these courses consists of just 5 instructors. But between those 5 individuals, they share well over 100 years of combined experience in the valeting industry.
Wait, over a century of combined experience between 5 people?
Yes, well over 100 years.
When you pause and think about what that actually means in practice, it is staggering. That means these are not people just reading off a corporate PowerPoint.
Not at all. When you're dealing with a century of compounded, hands-on knowledge, you're moving far beyond just knowing which soap to use. You are talking about an institutional memory of problem solving, like having seen every possible scenario.
Precisely. These 5 instructors have likely seen every conceivable edge case, every type of UV degradation, every strange chemical reaction on soft Japanese paint versus rock-hard German clear coats, every impossible stain.
They've lived it.
They have. They know how a specific abrasive compound will behave under a specific amount of pressure on a specific panel because they have spent decades physically feeling that feedback through a machine. And the Academy is essentially their structured framework for downloading that century of muscle memory into their students.
But how does one actually extract that 100 years of knowledge?
Yeah.
I mean, how does an employer justify tapping into that? Because I'm looking at the syllabus for the first tier of instruction, the professional process training course.
Right, the Foundational Pro course.
This is a 2-day commitment. They strictly cap the room at just 4 delegates. The cost is hovering around £400 once you factor in VAT. They quote $396 to be exact. That covers all the personal protective equipment, lunch, parking, and it ends with an Autoglym certificate of competence.
It's a very solid package.
It is, but if I am running a dealership, sending a staff member away for 2 days and paying nearly 400 quid requires a serious return on investment.
It does, and that return on investment is purely about efficiency and margins. The sources explicitly state that the goal of this course is to impart, quote, time and product saving techniques.
So it's about the bottom line.
Always. In a high-volume commercial setting, if an employee is using 3 ounces of a chemical when 1 ounce would suffice, or if they're taking 3 hours to prep a car that should take 90 minutes, those inefficiencies eat directly into the business's profit margins.
So it's about stopping the bleed of wasted resources.
Yeah.
But I am hung up on one specific phrase in the course description. It says the core focus is teaching delegates how to use the products in the correct order.
That's the most critical part.
I always figured if you were cleaning the car, you're cleaning the car. Why does the sequence dictate the entire success of the job?
Because it is a highly engineered chemical process, not just a scrubbing exercise. The order of operations is the invisible architecture of car detailing. Let's look at the chemistry of decontamination, for example.
Okay, walk me through it.
So if you have an expensive, high-quality exterior sealant, but you apply it before you have chemically dissolved the microscopic iron particles embedded in the clear coat, you haven't protected the car. You've just permanently sealed a layer of oxidizing metal against the paint.
Oh, wow. That sounds terrible.
It is. Or, conversely, if you use a highly alkaline pre-wash product after you have painstakingly applied a carnival wax, the alkalinity will instantly strip the protective wax you just spent an hour applying.
So applying the right chemical at the wrong time doesn't just look bad, it actively cannibalizes your previous work.
Precisely. The chemical sequence is what separates a frustrating, circular driveway wash from a linear, profitable, professional service. And once a professional masters that foundational sequence, that is when the Academy allows them to move up to the high-stakes physical interventions.
Which brings us to the machine polishing course. And looking at the notes, this one is intense. It's a single-day training, and the price tag is £350 plus VAT, bringing it to $420 total.
Yes, it's a significant step up.
And like the previous course, it is capped at 4 delegates. But the source document highlights a statistic that honestly made me do a double take. For those 4 delegates, there are 2 specialists supporting them at all times.
A 2-to-1 student-to-teacher ratio is incredibly rare for any commercial training. It speaks volumes about the risk involved in the procedure.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because you have to ask yourself why they need someone hovering over your shoulder that closely. The course description emphasizes that students are getting real-life experiences on real paint.
Real paint means real consequences.
Exactly. When we talk about machine polishing, we aren't talking about gently rubbing a lotion onto a surface. It's a mechanical intervention. I liken it to trying to sand a jagged piece of wood until it's smooth enough to reflect light perfectly, or maybe even learning high-stakes surgery or diamond cutting.
That is a much more accurate way to visualize it than most people realize. You are physically altering the topography of the vehicle.
Right, because paint on a microscopic level isn't flat. It looks like a mountain range of scratches, swirls, and oxidation. When you put a rapidly spinning mechanical buffer onto a car's clear coat, which, by the way, is often thinner than a Post-it note, you are using friction, heat, and microabrasives to violently remove the peaks of those microscopic mountains until the surface is entirely flat.
And only a perfectly flat surface will refract light evenly and create that mirror-like gloss.
Yeah, so one wrong move could just destroy a car's paint job.
Completely. You are actually subtracting material to create the illusion of depth and shine. And because you are dealing with friction and heat, the margin for error is razor thin.
I can imagine.
If you apply slightly too much pressure, or if you hold the machine at a 5-degree incorrect angle, or if you linger on a plastic bumper edge for 3 seconds too long, the heat builds up exponentially.
And then what happens?
You can burn right through the clear coat and the base color down to the bare primer in the blink of an eye. You've instantly caused hundreds, if not thousands, of pounds in damage.
Hence the intense 2-to-1 supervision. They cannot afford to let a student build bad muscle memory, let alone burn through a practice panel. They are physically guiding your hands so you understand the exact threshold of pressure and heat management.
It removes the crippling anxiety of learning. You are mastering a highly destructive tool in a completely controlled environment. It's the ultimate manifestation of that 100 years of combined experience we talked about earlier.
It paints a picture of a very serious, heavily industrialized commercial sector. We're talking hundreds of pounds, extremely limited seating, and high-pressure mechanical skills. But Autoglym hasn't just built this indoor facility for the elite business owners or the high-volume dealerships.
No, they haven't forgotten the everyday consumer at all.
Right. They have deliberately engineered a separate track.
And structurally, that is a brilliant pivot in their educational model. While the professional courses address the heavy industrial demands, they've built a bridge directly to the everyday consumer. They understand that the enthusiast sweating in their driveway on a Sunday morning is chasing the exact same scientific result, just on a smaller scale.
Let's look at the specs for this retail-focused track, the Car Enthusiast Day. It's a one-day course, significantly more accessible at just under 100 pounds total, 82.50 plus VAT.
A much lower barrier to entry.
Exactly. And they allow a slightly larger group, capping it at 6 delegates. But the curriculum entirely shifts its focus. Instead of high-volume commercial efficiency, it focuses heavily on the how and why of specific retail products.
Because the amateur detailer doesn't need to know how to shave 3 minutes off a wash process to maximize a profit margin. They need to understand the fundamental mechanics of the liquids they're buying.
Yes, and the source actually points out that this course tackles one of the most eternal misunderstood concepts in car care. They spend time clarifying the actual chemical difference between a polish and a wax.
A classic confusion.
Which sounds so basic, but the vast majority of consumers use those terms completely interchangeably.
Which loops us right back to the catastrophic failure of getting your order of operations wrong. If a consumer doesn't know the difference, they are doomed from the start. We just established that polish isn't abrasive. It uses friction to physically remove defects and level the clear coat.
Right, it's taking things away.
Exactly. Wax, on the other hand, is purely protective. It uses polymer bonds or natural carnauba to create a hydrophobic sacrificial barrier over the clear coat.
So if you think a wax is going to remove your scratches, you are just aggressively rubbing a protective barrier over damaged paint.
You're sealing in the damage.
And if you think a polish is going to protect your car for the winter, you are just grinding away your clear coat and leaving the bare paint completely exposed to the elements.
Exactly. You have to subtract the damage with the polish and then seal the flattened surface with the wax. Teaching that fundamental distinction is the core value of the Enthusiast Day.
But looking at the syllabus, the absolute standout feature of this 99-pound Enthusiast Day isn't just the live demonstrations or the classroom time. The course actually concludes with a behind-the-scenes factory and lab tour at Autoglym's main site.
And that inclusion is just a masterstroke of consumer education, showing the students the exact laboratories where the chemical engineers are testing and manufacturing the products.
But why open the doors? I mean, the car care industry is notoriously secretive. Most companies guard their formulations like state secrets. So why is Autoglym walking groups of weekend hobbyists through their testing facility?
If we connect this to the bigger picture, it is entirely about establishing undeniable credibility through transparency. The automotive detailing market is intensely saturated.
Tons of products on the shelf.
Exactly. The shelves are packed with bottles making wild, miraculous claims using flashy buzzwords. There's an enormous amount of marketing fluff. By physically taking the enthusiast into the laboratory environment, Autoglym strips away the marketing.
That's a great aha moment.
It proves to the consumer that the liquid in the bottle isn't just colored water with a nice fragrance. It's the direct result of rigorous, systematic chemical engineering. It proves that the how and why they just learned in the classroom is backed by actual, tangible science.
That makes a lot of sense. You transition the customer from blindly trusting a marketing slogan to actually witnessing the scientific method in action.
Mm.
And speaking of the output from those labs, the sources also provided updates on some recent product innovations that perfectly illustrate this kind of practical chemistry.
Right. The news updates in the material show us exactly what that continuous lab testing yields for the end user.
Take the new polar foam sprayer they just launched. For anyone familiar with applying snow foam, you know the drill. You need it to aggressively cling to the vertical panels of the car so the surfactants have time to encapsulate and lift the road grime before you ever touch the paint with a mitt.
It's a crucial pre-wash step.
Historically, to get that thick, shaving cream consistency, you absolutely needed a heavy-duty pressure washer. You needed the mechanical force of 130 bar water pressure to aerate the mixture. But this new sprayer they developed delivers that heavy, clinging foam without a pressure washer.
Which is a fascinating problem of fluid dynamics to solve. If you remove the high-pressure mechanical pump from the equation, you have to rely entirely on the internal geometry of the sprayer's nozzle and the specific viscosity of the chemical to force aeration.
Exactly. They engineered a way to democratize a professional pre-wash technique. They took a process that used to require hundreds of pounds of machinery and reduced it to a handheld tool, purely through clever design and chemistry.
It's a game changer for the driveway detailer.
And on the flip side of the consumer market, they're also rolling out their most popular formulas in massive 2.5-liter formats. The documentation notes this is to facilitate rapid and cost-effective use.
Which shows they are actively listening to the feedback loop generated by these very Academy courses. When you educate consumers on the proper order of operations, they start using the products correctly, which means they use them more frequently.
They run out faster.
Exactly. They graduate from needing a small retail bottle once a year to needing bulk volume because they are executing the full, proper decontamination and protection sequence on a regular basis.
They're essentially raising the baseline competency of their own customers and then providing the bulk formats to support that new habit.
Mm.
And it's clearly a strategy that the broader industry recognizes. The sources highlight that Autoglym just won the Car Dealer Power Award for Cleaning Product of the Year for a record 9th time.
A 9-time winning streak in an industry that crowded and competitive is not a statistical anomaly. It is not luck. And the sources also mention they secured a win for their LifeShine protection line.
That's incredibly impressive.
You don't achieve that kind of sustained, multi-layered recognition by accident. You achieve it by treating car care as a rigid science, relentlessly iterating formulations in the lab, and then physically building an academy to ensure that the end user actually understands the chemistry well enough to extract the maximum performance from the bottle.
So what does this all mean? When we look back at this entire stack of information, the climate-controlled Letchworth facility, the 5 instructors with a century of institutional knowledge, the 400-pound professional courses focused on efficiency, the microscopic physics of machine polishing, the lab tours, and the fluid dynamics of the new sprayers, it radically reframes the entire concept of washing a vehicle.
It really does. It elevates it.
Car detailing is not a dark art. It's not an unapproachable, innate talent reserved for people with expensive garages. It is a highly structured, entirely learnable sequence of chemical and mechanical interactions.
It is an engineered system. The magic is just applied science.
Precisely. Whether you are a business owner dropping 420 pounds to have a specialist guide your employees' hands through the high-stakes friction of machine polishing, or you are an everyday driver paying 99 pounds to finally learn the chemical distinction between a leveling abrasive and a protective polymer while touring a laboratory, the fundamental secret to success remains identical. It requires respecting the science, and it absolutely demands executing the correct order of operations.
If you get the sequence wrong, the chemistry cannot save you.
So, to you listening right now, I want you to take this framework the next time you look at your own garage shelves or peer into that bucket of cleaning supplies. Are you constantly frustrated with your results?
We've all felt that.
Are you spending hours of physical labor only to be left with streaks and water spots? Consider the possibility that you might already own all the right chemical tools. You might have the best abrasives and the highest quality polymers sitting right there. But if you don't understand the science of how they interact or the sequence of when to apply them, you're actively sabotaging your own effort.
And that realization invites a much broader and frankly more challenging reflection. If a team of technical experts armed with over 100 years of combined compounded experience insists that the ultimate secret to achieving a flawless, mirror-like result is simply applying the right tools in the exact right sequence, it really makes you wonder, how many of our own daily struggles, whether in our complex professional workflows, our creative projects, or our personal routines, could be entirely resolved if we just stopped scrubbing so frantically, took a step back, and rigorously audited our own order of operations?